inspire you to be motivated and make some really good, healthy changes to your life. We even give you some good suggestions on how to do that, but you have to stick around to the end. So make sure you do that so you can get all those items and make some healthy changes in your life.
Yep, the good stuff at the end. I'm Brandon. I'm Coach Brandon. If you're with us live on Facebook in any of our groups, or if you are watching us on one of our personal profiles, we're glad you're here. Go ahead and give us a thumbs up. Just let us know that you're with us. And if you are not part of one of our groups, if you're not following us on Facebook, I don't know what you're waiting for.
Me
You should
neither.
get in there and do that. Then you can be part of the discussion. Then you can ask questions,
Yes.
and we can answer you, hopefully in real time. And if not in real time, we'll answer you, immediately afterward.
Perfect.
All right, what are we talking about?
So you actually were having a very interesting conversation before class the other day with one of our members about retirement and being active. Remember that?
Yeah, I do.
Or actually, what I should say is when you're not active once you retire was more in
Mm-hmm.
line with the conversation.
Right.
I think that one of the things that all of us are looking forward to in retirement is some leisure time, right?
Sure. Yeah.
But there can be this really fine line between taking it easy and being unhealthy in how easy you're taking it, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay, let's talk about that.
Yeah, I don't want to darken the mood here, but
great start, Rebecca.
I know. Well, it's going to get worse. This is one of the saddest parts about working at my old job at the VA, and it really changed how I train people and how I thought about my own health and mortality and that of the people to whom I have a responsibility. Then in my PT clinic and now as a coach and trainer. So the recurring story was, Mr. So-and-so comes to my clinic with a laundry list of health problems, mobility issues, joint pains, etc. And he's, or they are super confused. They've always been healthy. They've worked, a job often in the trades or something since they're discharged from the military, and they'll say something like, I don't get it. I broke my back, doing construction or whatever for years, and thought I'd be healthier once I stopped all that, and that my body would feel better. And essentially what they're saying is they've been active, at work, if nothing else, is getting up and going to work, right? And being on their feet a little bit throughout the day, 5-6 days a week, and looking forward to spending the rest of their lives, right? Like in the recliner, drinking beer and watching football, right? Sounds like the life for someone. Or maybe a lot of them move, right? They've invested in property, remote property, rural property, and they go and they move somewhere they want to move, to the woods, essentially. And what actually happened, right, is that once they stopped moving, once they stopped that daily labor, their health declined rapidly, right? And now, they only get on the ladder once or twice a year. Gets down on the floor to, fix the sink once a year, if that, has to hold things over their head, squat, push, pull, all those functional movements. They're not happening as much anymore. And now they expect those movements and that strength to show up, on game day when it counts, right? And so they're stiff, they're not moving. Now the blood pressure starts, coming up. They start gaining weight, they get weaker. And to be honest, a lot of the time, this is if they haven't had a stroke or a heart attack,
right?
Which I know is heavy, but I'd look in their charts and it's like they've been relatively healthy their whole lives until they retire. I've seen other people, 1 year apart, pre-retirement and post-retirement, and they've gone from feeling strong, healthy, and being healthy people to, being in a wheelchair sometimes. Yikes. So yeah, yikes! Like, it really scared me a lot, and shifted my priorities, for myself, but also as a coach, in a big way.
Yeah, I can imagine. It sounds pretty much like the opposite of what you look forward to in retirement.
Right.
Um,
Right.
especially after working so hard for most of your life, right? Like I think I think the point is that once you reach that point, you want to enjoy the rest of your life and just do all the fun stuff.
Yeah.
Not have to, okay, now I don't have to go to work every day and now I got to manage all these health issues and this stuff that popped up when I was
Right.
active my whole life, And I think
There's,
go ahead.
I was going to say there's going to be some of that. I mean, we age,
Right.
of
That
course, but
happens.
it doesn't have to be. Yeah, we shouldn't fall apart.
Right.
Right.
Exactly. And I think most people do know the basics of why being active is important, right?
Of
It's
course. Yeah.
generally
Yeah.
beneficial to your health, but most of us are thinking right now, not what will
Right.
happen in 10, 20, or 30 years from now. And, if you are active, you're going to reduce your risk of certain
Yeah.
diseases. You'll have stronger muscles and bones. We all know
Right.
that. And it's easier to manage your weight. All those things we know, but it's also really beneficial to brain health and being an active person, of course, our favorite reason to be active, since we focus on functional fitness here, is
Yeah.
it makes your everyday life and activities easier and more
Easier.
enjoyable, especially as you age, 10 to
Totally.
20 years from now, not just tomorrow when I'm doing something, but when
Right.
I get older and I'm doing
Yeah.
something.
Yeah. And I think you bring up a good point. Like it sort of is abstract to people,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like I'm not talking about really old people here
Mm-mm.
either, right? Like I've seen this happen to people, in their 60s and 70s, sometimes even earlier. And while I train people in their 60s and 70s, who are like totally kicking ass and having
Yeah,
fun, right? And they're
completely.
having a great time. I had a patient, who came to me on his 100th birthday. Like that was, awesome because he didn't want to miss his workout. Like he really looked forward to it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so it's easy to take this stuff for granted until it's in your face.
Right.
Um, we kind of have a way also, I think, in our culture and American culture of kind of putting our sick and elderly in the dark where we don't really see them,
Mm-hmm.
right? It's really scary, and what you do now can pay really big dividends, um, and you can prevent a whole lot of pain and inconvenience for yourself and for your loved ones in the future, and really prolong your life by doing pretty simple stuff.
That sounds great. Sounds like something I want to do.
So how do we
So,
do it? What do
how
we
do
do?
what are
Yeah,
we supposed to do to accomplish
yeah,
those things later in life? Like,
yeah. What do we do prevent
yes,
problems or prolong our functional health?
yes. What do we do?
What do we do? Get strong and stay strong. I mean, if
Fair.
now is the time, before those years is the time to build muscle, right, as much as possible. So
Mm-hmm.
when you reach that age where we all start losing a little muscle mass, you don't start at zero or close to it, right? Like you want to
Mm-hmm.
have a lot to lose, if that makes sense. And
Yeah.
do what you love doing, do it often, keep
Mm-hmm.
doing it.
Yeah.
And if you get injured, don't just ignore it and accept it. You know, work on that. Don't let that keep you
Mm-hmm.
from moving. I think that happens a lot also, is that people get hurt or they develop like, I got, my knee bugs me now, or my back starts to bug me. And then they just
Yep.
stop, like, you know, they stop moving. Another thing I see happen a lot as well is people start having trouble with certain functions
Mm-hmm.
around their home, and then they modify their homes, right,
Ah,
to
yes.
to
Make it
like, yeah,
easier.
to make it easier, right? Yeah, and it's good to put the handrail by the stairs and by the shower and all that.
Certain things make sense.
Sure, but
Yes.
practice, right? Challenge yourself
Mm-hmm.
so you can keep doing those things, because the more dependent you become on aids like that, the less function you preserve.
Fair.
So, and as always, yeah, prioritize those functional movements.
That makes
All right,
sense.
those push, pull, squat, lunge, hinge, rotate, carry.
Mm-hmm.
Get get your ass up and down from the floor.
That's the one right
Oh, that's
there.
the one, right?
That's
Like,
the
how
one.
much pushback do we get on that?
Oh,
Like, people are like, how many times do we have to get up and down?
oh, my favorite is, I'm not going to do push-ups. I don't want to do push-ups. Okay, well, if
Well,
you fall on the ground, how are you going to get
it's
yourself
a
up?
pretty important movement. Yeah. I hate
Push-up.
lunges. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, being able to push yourself up and do a lunge, super
Very
important if you
important.
end up on the ground
Totally.
intentionally.
Mm-hmm.
But anything that mimics movements you need to do in your daily life, or maybe it's not daily, but every once in a while, right? Functional stuff. You got to lift overhead. You got to get the
Yep.
blender down from the top cabinet or whatever. Like, do that stuff off and lift overhead, pulling things upward from the floor. Super important. We got to be able
Mm-hmm.
to do that stuff, not only to have the strength but to also have the balance. And that's it,
Balance is
right? I
important.
don't care who you are. That I'm like a crazy stickler about this,
Yes.
maybe a little bit, pathological about it, but practice your freaking balance,
Balance.
people. Like,
Mm-hmm.
balance is one of the
Yep.
biggest indicators of mortality. Do not take it for granted. Do not just like, oh, my balance sucks. That's not okay.
Yeah.
Like,
No.
you need to have good balance. It's
Right.
important.
Yeah. And I feel like, especially for women, not just women, but especially for women, we tend to
Mm,
overlook the importance of strength training,
mm-hmm.
or we
Yeah.
think that strength training has to be lifting heavy weights all the time when that's not the case.
Right.
But that's also an important thing to work into your routine, even if you don't focus on or did any strength training in your younger years. It's important to have in
Do it
your life
now.
at any
Yeah.
age. And we actually heard
Mm-hmm.
the other day someone said to us, "Oh, I heard you can't build muscle after a certain point." That's not true, but it's never too late to start building muscle so you have more later in life.
Absolutely, absolutely. And yeah, I mean, we do experience muscle loss as we age, but a really good study came out recently comparing muscle quality, which is really interesting.
Mm.
And it basically basically an 80-year-old person can have the same muscle quality as a 40-year-old person.
Interesting.
Interesting, right?
Yeah.
That means that your muscles, however, whatever muscle mass you have, can be just as strong as it was in your 40s, or
All right.
stronger if you weren't very active in your 40s. So, yeah, it's to your point about women practicing resistance training. It is ultra important, and I think it's becoming a little more like mainstream medical advice now.
Mm-hmm. Fair.
But lifting, or not necessarily lifting, but lifting is great for women.
Totally.
But yeah, any resistance training helps strengthen bones and prevents osteoporosis.
Mm-hmm.
And it's important for everyone, but women have a much higher rate of osteoporosis as they age. And
Yep.
really, like, what could be a worse combination, right, than poor balance and weak bones,
Mm-hmm.
right? Or to put it in other terms, like weak bones and an increased likelihood of falling and
Right.
breaking one.
Right. Yeah, you don't want to fall and break something.
Yeah.
So, okay.
All right.
We got that. But let's say, I'm getting close to retirement age and I realize that I have lost some function, right?
Mm-hmm,
I'm
mm-hmm.
not as strong as I used to be. I don't want to deal with a whole bunch of health issues as I get closer to retirement. What do I do to deal with that loss of function or those loss of
Right.
functional movements?
Right. Or maybe you're already retired. Maybe you're beyond retirement age,
Maybe.
right? Yeah. How do you
How do I get it
regain
back?
some of that? So, like, the first thing I want to say is, like, get some help. Okay. Like, and
Good
yeah,
point.
there's a lot you can do. I mean, most of us know, like, like, I know I need to get out and walk more. Okay, get out and walk
Get
more.
out and take a walk.
It doesn't mean you got to walk for 6 miles
Nope.
every day, just out the gate, right? Like,
Mm-hmm.
please start walking to your mailbox and back, or whatever, or walk
Mm-hmm.
down to the end of the block and back.
Yep.
Give yourself something small that you can build on. Get those small wins. But you don't have to do it alone. Get some guidance, physical therapy, a good trainer. I know it can be kind of tough to come by trainers who really understand this stuff. Talk to your doctor to do that. And really advocate for yourself. Don't let somebody just tell you that, like, oh, you're just getting old. Don't
Nope.
listen to that bullshit.
It's not the end of it.
Okay, it is not. We have 70 something year olds in our gym who are like jumping on boxes, going to, riding mountain bikes.
Yeah, totally gives me a run for my money in class.
I'm telling
that's
you.
for sure.
Yeah, I'm telling you. But yeah, get another set of eyes on you that has, seen and worked with this active aging and has the knowledge and experience.
Yes.
The other part is, if you want to play the piano, play the piano. That's what I say. Like, practice what you want to do. Practice what you want to be able to do. And if you can't do it at all, get somebody to help you break it into pieces that you can do. That'll build you up toward that function. If you notice your balance is getting, is troublesome, practice balance.
It's easy. How do you practice balance?
Yeah, and one of the things, stand on one leg.
There you go.
Okay, hold on to something if you need to.
There
it doesn't matter. Just challenge yourself a little bit.
Yeah.
And I mean a little bit, like 1 minute of balance practice every day. Studies show that I think it's 10 minutes of balance practice a week will improve one's balance. 10 minutes a week.
That's easy.
Okay. Yeah, that's nothing.
Yeah.
Okay.
Everybody has 10 minutes.
Yeah. I've seen literally 100-year-old patients improve their balance while I worked with them. And it did not take a whole lot of work. All they had to do was be consistent.
That is the key.
So yeah, if your strength is declining, practice lifting a little weight or doing the things that made you aware of the problem, right? Most of the time it's getting up and down from the floor. But again, like returning to that, like, to getting some help and getting some eyes on you, have somebody show you. Sometimes it's just our mechanics, right? We get stiff and sore and our mechanics go out the window, and then it's like really hard to squat all of a sudden when really, when we just do it naturally, it comes along. But sometimes our bodies forget how to do these things.
Yeah. So I'm going to stress the importance of having help, because if I could think back to all the times that you've had personal training clients in here who they come in and their biggest concern is, I want to get off the floor without embarrassing myself. That's a big one. Yeah, big. And you have several clients that you just work on different movements, starting with something super easy, like a lunge, to work on how do I get down? How do I get back up? And it's just taking tiny little baby steps that you wouldn't even imagine that's why you need help. So if it's something that's really severe loss of function, don't be embarrassed. Go find somebody who will help you, or ask questions to people who will help you. Yeah.
And don't, and find somebody who's like encouraging, right?
Yes.
And who really wants to honestly help you improve your life. Because sometimes those things, right. And it can be just a little tweak of mechanics. I think that's what I wanted to get back to is like, a lunge might feel impossible to you, and that's fine. So maybe we practice a half lunge, right? Or just, a piece of that movement until we become more confident and competent, right? And regain that coordination and that balance. And having someone's eyes on you who can point out the parts of your mechanics that are actually making it harder for you to do that stuff, right? Like the lunge especially. Like if your feet aren't wide enough apart, right, your lunge is going to be impossible. It's going to be really hard for your knees and for your quads. And so, just having somebody to look at you and tell you that, like, oh, all you got to do is widen your stance, and now your lunge is actually a lot easier, right? Or your squats, that kind of thing. So do that. Get some help. Get some help. Prioritize stabilization, balance, slow, big movement. Okay. Slow, big movement. I want to say that like 3 times. Slow, big movement. Like do the big stuff. The squats to lifting overheads.
And slow it down.
That's the
biggest thing that we see is when momentum, people are like relying on momentum, it's very different. So whatever you're doing, just take it at half the pace, slow it down just a smidge, and see what a difference it is. Yeah. That's important.
Yeah. I'm going to be mean. Like slow it down a lot. Like you're moving faster than you think you are.
And you're using,
I know I'm going to be mean right now. Like slow down a lot.
A lot.
Like, practice that. but yeah, reach out, to your doctor, get some physical therapy if you're really kind of behind the ball on some of this stuff. Reach out to me. I'm happy to talk shop. And yeah, don't do it alone. Like, find a community too. There are other people going through exactly what you're going through if that's something you're dealing with.
Yep. And that's what we're here for. If you think we don't like answering questions, you are totally wrong.
Totally wrong.
Ask us the questions, ask us all the things, and we'll be happy to answer it.
Yeah,
that's
absolutely.
what we're here for. We want to help.
Yep, we do. We care about you guys.
Yep.
So yeah, do that. If you reach out, we will answer you.
We will.
Anyone who, if you open up and share here, we will reach out and say hi. If you've done that before, then you know that's true. If you're not in our community yet, what the hell are you waiting for?
Yeah,
get over here and talk. See, listen, Captain's excited.
He agrees.
And keep being a community, guys. And if you don't have that, find that and reach out to us. We'll help you build that. Because I think that's one of the biggest things, especially as we age, is to not do this alone. So keep doing what you guys do as our community. You guys reaching out and lifting each other up. And if you're feeling vulnerable, share a little bit. I know it's hard to be vulnerable, but if you can do that,
it helps.
I think you will find that people are happy to be part of your journey with you. So
yeah.
And beyond that, thank you for being part of our community. We love you. We will see you soon.
Bye, guys.
Cheers.